like if you're not like Russell when he goes on stage, he has to put on a persona.
Okay, now ready to film, guys.
Exactly, he's
Like,
got to
It
put
makes
it
me think
on.
of,
And
yeah,
in your authentic.
makes me think of that. Have you ever seen that meme of there was like a teacher? I think a teacher, he teaches elementary school or something, but he's just walking. He's like really tired. You can tell he's super tired, and then he goes just before the door, and he just ties it in. He's like, okay.
Yeah, yeah.
And then he walks in. He's like, hey, and like, but it's like
puts on a brave face for everybody.
Everybody, right?
Yeah.
And
Interesting.
that's just hardworking. Yeah, because you can see just to feed, just like.
Yeah.
And I think that's the struggle that a lot of men go through, right? Like we have to put on this brave face because a lot of us are just trying to figure out life,
For sure.
right? And a lot of us are just trying to better understand how do we navigate today's society as men. We struggle because we're trying to figure everything out on the go, and we've got generations of stigma and taboo that we've been trying to deal with for so long, and trying to understand, where to go from that. And that's sort of like anytime we've had the conversation with men to say to them, listen, this is what we're trying to do with Gents Talk and Gents Post, and try to explain to them, we just want to help men become better men.
Yeah.
It immediately resonates. And we have men already reaching out to us to say, we appreciate you for sharing this, because they won't comment, they won't openly share it, but they'll privately reach out and say, I needed to hear that.
Which is good. Yeah.
Which is exactly who we want to target, who we want to help, who we want to sort of just give insight to.
Safe space.
Safe space, exactly. Yeah. So, with that being said, can I just ask that this gets a little closer to your mouth there?
Absolutely.
If I can, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
Perfect. Say
Cool.
something for me.
Hello, hello.
Perfect.
Hello,
Like butter in my ears.
Hello, hello. I've never had this. This is cool.
Yeah, it's once you take it off after we're done, you're gonna feel a little weird.
That's why I had mine on earlier, because it takes a second to get used to having it on. So I just keep it on for a bit, then I forget about it.
And you just listen to
I
it.
don't know. The
Yeah.
decibels in my voice just start going lower, and I'm like, yo, let me try
Hello,
to
how you
change
guys
my
doing?
voice a bit. Or like, let me try to drop.
Let me
a
tell you
mixtape
all
real
a
quick.
story.
You're welcome. You're welcome for showing me, guys.
I know.
Hello, how you guys doing?
So, Wallace Wong, how are you, man?
I'm amazing. How are you guys?
We're
Very good,
great.
man, very
We're
good.
great. Thank you for coming.
You're
We're here from the Startwell studio in Toronto, which is always a beautiful studio. And the reaction you had of how cool the studio is when you came in is just 100%, 10 for 10, always.
It's super professional here.
Yeah.
And it's like, I've never been in a studio like this. So to see, even just like the microphones, the headphones, and the lighting, and you're like, oh, we've got the guy in the back in the booth taking care of all this stuff. Like, this is like
Proper.
proper.
Respect. Okay, good. And that guy in the booth is Poncho, of course, the magician.
Man.
Thank you, sir. So this episode, of course, is sponsored by our presenting sponsor, BULOVA, and the Fits by Got Style, so we appreciate them for that. Wallace, I'm just going to turn it over to you, man. Tell me who you are. You were born and now you're here. What happened in between?
Yeah, okay. How much time do we have? That's the question.
Take your time.
But, well, I'm born and raised in Mississauga. So I was born in a Hong Kong Cantonese family. My parents came from Hong Kong. They immigrated over here. And my life is really about a couple things. It's about food, it's about family, health and fitness, and then sort of kind of lifestyle and life. To getting into all of those things, I guess it's like where people see me today as a content creator, as a professional chef, as an entrepreneur, but also as I think, and it's nice to even say this, is as someone people just relate to. I personally see myself as just an average guy, just trying to chase a dream. So essentially there.
What's the dream?
It's such a funny thing. I spoke with someone, a partner of mine in one of my projects that I'm working on. We talked about like, what's your life goal and things. And I was like, it's not like a car. It's not any of like that. But like the dream, long, like meta dream was like, I'd love to be able to like look down, like when I'm gone off the world, and sort of just look down on like the day that I'm like my whatever celebration of life, and see people that I've never met before. Or hopefully there's people or first off, and like, hopefully there's people there, but like there's people there that I've never seen before.
Yeah.
And then I kind of get to hear all these conversations that go on, and I'd love to be able to have someone be like, oh, like, why are you here? Like, how do you know Wallace or whatever? And some person be like, oh, I actually I don't know him, but my grandfather always talked to me about him and told me how like he worked with him, or he did this, or he saw some of these things, and so I came here because he made such a big impact on my grandfather, and that's why we're here. Or like stories and conversations like that. So it's very like it got kind of real deep real quick, but it was more, I think, for me, that goal of hopefully when I leave here, I leave an impact on this earth. And that kind of ties back to when you asked me the question of who I am. One of the things that I am is a cancer survivor. So I had cancer in my last year of high school, and that was such a life-changing experience. I wouldn't be the person I am if I didn't go through that. It's changed everything about who I am, how I see life, what I pursue, what I don't pursue, the things that I care about, mental health, all that kind of stuff. So it's the best thing that's happened to me. It's the most weirdest thing for someone to say or hear, right? Where it'd be like, cancer was the best thing that happened to me. But it was very, very true. Yeah.
What was the biggest takeaway from that? What did you learn from that?
It was funny because when I had cancer, it was about that time that Drake dropped YOLO. Like the word YOLO was coming out. So that's actually the biggest thing I learned about, which was like, you only live once. It's funny when you're like 17 and like you're there and you're just get a phone call and suddenly you're like, oh, you got cancer. You don't know anything. You start Googling, right? You're like, how long do I have to live? Like you don't know anything. That's the worst thing, right? Every person's like, if
your brain's already not matured yet,
don't
either,
know
so
anything, don't Google.
That's the worst thing. Like,
right?
Like, anything, try to search any symptoms or anything, you're gonna, it's
you get paranoid.
Like a cough. You have a cough, you check, oh, I'm dying.
Oh yeah, 100%. So like, I learned real quick. I was like, I got scared because I was like, I didn't know if I was gonna die or not. And I remember I was like, God, like, this can't be it. Like, I promise, like, just let me come back. I'll make sure I'll like live life to the fullest. Like, that's what I learned. I learned that I didn't do anything at that time. I mean, I was 17. For God forbid, we're teenagers, you do your thing, you go play video games, basketball, just chill. But then I was like, I didn't do much, right? I didn't do much, but at the same time, I thought, I was like, hey, maybe this was like the sign that was like, hey, you got to do something with your life so that, or else I'll take it away from you. So the biggest thing I learned was you only live once. And that means don't take any opportunities. I mean, don't
don't waste the opportunities.
But take all opportunities that come or that you have a chance to do it. And that also means like career. It also means relationships, family. That's the biggest one. So it's a big reason also why maybe I'm like so busy now. Like, and I'm very blessed to be busy, but I'm learning to balance all those things. But that's a big reason. It's like I don't like missing out on a potential opportunity because I know what it feels like to not have any or not knowing if you have any. So yeah.
Interesting. That's a very interesting perspective. That's to think about that. After at such a young age, immediately makes you wiser than your years. Like you must have felt like you were ahead of your peers in terms of where your head was at.
Funny enough, I talk to my friends about it all the time, and we always laugh about it. But I always felt behind, and I kind of still do. The reason is, so I'm a chef by trade. But I went to business school. I went to Laurier. I did my business degree, and then my second year, I decided to do culinary school at the same time because I was missing cooking. So I started my second year of business, and then my first year of culinary, and I graduated with both. So I did a university and a college degree at the same time. And then when I graduated, all my friends went to, the big four, the corporate companies, they're getting a bag, they're, within that year, but I didn't work in business, right? I ended up opening up a restaurant. I helped open up the Momofuku down in this town.
Oh, no way.
Yeah. So I met David Chang when I worked over in Noma.
Good for you. I was there for the first time like a month ago.
Oh, food was good?
Food was always good.
I've
heard that it was always good.
Yeah.
A buddy of mine took me there, and then I went there, and I was just like, oh, yeah, I see what the hype is about.
Yeah. So going back to that, like I cooked majority of my life. Like my early teens and majority of my 20s, I cooked. So what that means is I didn't have nights off. I didn't have holidays telling me to go get turned up on Friday, Saturday. That wasn't a thing.
You were hustling.
Yeah. Holidays. That everybody's holidays is our time to get a bag. It's our time to make money. Yep. So I missed a lot of things. And also we don't get paid often. We don't get paid much as a chef. We get paid pennies. We get paid very little. Even now it's a little better, but comparatively to what the rest of the world provides, it's not
for the amount of work and time you put in.
Exactly, right? And the hours and all that kind of stuff. So while I was cooking, everybody got to go out, they got to party, they were making nice money, and got their houses, their cars, whatever it is. And then when I eventually left the culinary world, so I haven't cooked in restaurants in like several years, and the reason was just because, going back to the whole cancer thing and YOLO, is like there's a lot of things in life that I wanted to do that I've never done. Cooking and being a chef, it just doesn't allow for that. Very simple. It's not even about like going vacations or being able to go party or anything, but it's more of like, I want to take my kid out on a Thursday night to go out for a nice dinner or watch a movie, or I want to go to a family 80th birthday or something like that. When you work at sometimes really great restaurants, the team is very small. They're small because you're the A team, like you do your thing. Vacations are very hard to get. And you also, because you put so much time and effort into your job, you don't want to leave that and leave the rest of your crew and your team behind, because that means if you leave, everybody else has to pick up your slack.
Yeah.
Right. So I always felt behind because I saw everybody else kind of living through life, getting married, all these things. And me, I never had a salary until until 2017. So I made minimum wage my entire life. Like, you know what I mean? Like hour by hour, paycheck by paycheck kind of thing. And that's sort of how it came. So a lot of times when people see me now sort of as Six Pack Chef, which is my brand, and then doing content and some of the business endeavors I do, they might think that I'm caking it. I'm just starting my journey, which is the funny thing, right? Especially if for anybody, like we're starting this podcast or anything like that, money goes back into the business. It doesn't come to if you're trying to build something long term. So that's why I always feel behind, because the people around me at this time in their lives are at this certain state, a certain like spot, right? They've got kids, dogs, they're doing well, there are certain execs or senior levels in companies, and then I'm kind of there. So it's not that I feel I'm like comparing, but I do compare. We talked about this kind of before the podcast, but like there's a lot of things that have to do with like mental health and sort of being a content creator and sort of sometimes in people's eyes, and just overall as a guy, sometimes there's things that you have to sort of have the stigma of being.
What is that in your opinion?
Well, a lot of it, you've got your typical, I think everybody when thinks of a guy, it's like, the breadwinner, the guy that's kind of macho, very, very masculine, kind of rough on the edges. You kind of mentioned things about no emotions and all that. So that's kind of what I think. You still, no matter what, is kind of what everybody thinks of as a man. Like, when you talk to a girl and the girl's like, oh, like I like a manly man. Like, what's a manly man?
What does that even mean today?
Exactly.
Anymore?
What's a manly man? But that's all changed today. But I think the biggest stigma though is talking, and I love that we get to talk about this now more in society, is that guys are opening up more. Guys are opening up, and that what makes a guy has now spread to be such a variety of things. Like all three of us here, and don't care for Poncho, he's in the
Poncho.
I got you. Four of us, right? 4 dudes here. We're all a different type of dude, right? And I think that's really cool. And I don't think anybody now would be like, no, you're not a dude, or like you're not a dude, right? So yeah.
So okay, let's go back a moment here. After you got cancer, how long was that journey?
So the whole cancer thing happened where it was senior of high school, September. I somehow developed this like kind of like cyst kind of like ball thing on my eye. I went to the eye doctor. Like, oh, it's just a very average cyst. Something that's very done all the time. It's very common. We just do a procedure to take it out, and that's it. So obviously Ontario, we wait, right? We wait for surgeries.
A long time.
So September, my surgery was for December, for end of December. So from September to December, it started growing and like changing. Like my face started morphing over the 4 months. I always think about, I think it's called, the movie is Treasure Island, where like the one where there's like the mom and then the 2 sons, and one of the sons like there's like, I think it's Treasure Island if I'm not mistaken. And one of the older sons is like kind of like a deformed kind of ogre monster kind of guy. I looked like that. Like my face was like this, and like it was red, and like always it was like kind of, it wasn't the best look at all. And then when you think about the senior year in high school.
In high school too,
like,
yeah.
This was not cool. It sucked. But so I remember even a teacher pulled me out of class one day, and he's like, hey, Wallace, like, I just need to know, like, what's happening with your eye for the safety of like the students and myself and everybody, like everything's okay. I'm like, yeah, it's all good. It's just a cyst. Like I've got procedure. We're all good. That's all set. So anyways, did the surgery, and then what happened was it was like January 2nd, like literally January 2nd, January 1st, New Year, and a phone call comes over. I pick it up, my mom picks it up, and all you hear is, "Oh, hey, happy holidays. This is Doctor blah blah blah." My mom speaks first, so I'm just like kind of chilling on the phone, and he's like, "Yeah, I just wanted to give you a quick update. So I did the surgery on Wallace. We found this little lump. We did a biopsy. I'm sorry to tell you that it came back as cancer." And that's all I remember. And then my mom, I remember she just started to kind of bring it down and getting very emotional. And then I kind of just like quietly dropped the phone down. And then across from me was my grandparents at the time. And they're like, "Hey, like, what's up?" And I was just like, "Oh, nothing. Yeah, ma." It's like, it was just the doctor. I was like, and they're like, "Everything's okay?" And I'm like, "Everything's great." And then I gave him a hug. And then I went upstairs, and my mom's obviously super like emotional. She's kind of like, she's crying. I just gave her a hug, and I'm like, "Everything's going to be okay." Going back to what we first talked about, you're like, who am I? Family is a big part of who I am. I live with my whole family. So I grew up always with like my aunts and my uncles, my brothers. So I had like people around me all the time. So I had like 8 people living with me. And that day, as people came home, everybody knew, right? And then everybody kind of either played it off or not. And then every single person that came out was just like, "It's okay. It'll be fine." And that was kind of it. So that was like the cancer journey. And then from there, I did the little searching thing. That was not cool. And then it became 6 months of full-on chemotherapy and radiation. So I did a full 6-month blast. I did spinal cord chemo. I did.
What's spinal cord chemo?
It's a little. It's not fun.
Okay.
It's not fun. You go into fetal position, and then they take like a needle, a massive needle, go in between your spine, and grab your bone marrow.
Jeez.
And then they find that hole again, and they throw the medicine into that. And it's like a super hard procedure, because if you think about it, your spine has so many nerves.
Yeah.
Every time they hit something, your whole body like shimmies and shakes, and you're in like the fetal position. And like if they find the hole once, they have to get that same hole. So if they miss that hole again, they need to find it again. And the only way to find it is to find it. And then so
how did you mentally, I don't want to say the word survive, but like how did you pull through that mentally?
I think survive's a great word. I think survive's a great word because I said cancer was the best thing that's ever happened to me. The only thing I would take away from it, like if it was to happen again, knock on wood, the only thing I would take away from it is like the worst part about having cancer was, yes, the chemotherapy sucked, the radiation sucked, everything that's effects about sucks, but nothing is worse than seeing the people around you cry, be upset, and sad because of your existence.
Yeah, the more sad, more upset than you are at the time, and makes you feel even worse.
So for me, when like you're like survival mode, like there's do or not, my survival mode was it was so hard for me to see people that I know be sad when they see me. So it's like I have to get better because I need them to feel better. That was the big thing. And that was really what pushed me through, because I think maybe I get it from my grandparents or something, but I also don't like relying on people or like having to like, or pity or anything like that. So I'll try to do everything myself. And yeah, so like to have people want to help me, which is a blessing, right? But to like people like doing all these things and getting them into having to like go here to grab this, or I had to go every day downtown to get treatment. So like my dad, for instance, and my family had to figure out what to do with work, right?
Yeah.
Like working from home was not a thing. And like obviously with my family, it's not like office work or anything like that, right? So
time off is not a leisure thing.
No, and that was like just before kind of the recession, like the 2008 recession.
Yeah.
So like it was not a fun time. It was not a fun time, and I also, because I have anemia and thalassemia, that I have really low blood. So with chemo, it knocked my blood counts even more. So I had to get this like special medicine to up my blood count. But that's not covered.
No,
that's not covered.
Yeah,
So that was
expenses.
So those
too,
are expenses, and so all those things for me, yeah, they're all like, they suck, right? They're horrible. But it's even worse when like your family is thinking about it and trying to figure out how to fix this so that they can fix you. And then so the solution is fix me, and then you can don't have those problems don't exist. So yeah, that was like the cancer journey. And then luckily, 6 months it was done, and it's 2007, 2020. It'll be like 16, 15. I think 15 years of remission this year or 16. My math's
Wow.
correct or wrong. So
Congratulations,
never had to go back.
man.
yeah, thank you.
Was there ever a time during that, I guess the 6 months or even with that, like you were like, 'cause I remember at first you said it's gonna be fine,
Yeah.
right? And you wanted to make sure, but like you were sitting there like, I'm not gonna get through this. Or was it the whole time you're like, because this you go through emotions, and sometimes with certain events, it's like, okay, some people can be strong all the time. It's like sometimes like at any point you're like sitting there like, fuck, I'm not gonna make it through.
No.
Good. See, and I feel like that is such a major part of it because it's the mindset, right? Too, you gotta believe that you're going to make it through. And I find that obviously with some of the cancer, it's so hard. Because my grandmother had cancer as well, and she said the same thing. Like, because it's like because everybody else is so upset, so it makes you feel a bit worse. And it's like, I'm gonna be okay, but you need everybody else to believe in it too, because it's so much harder.
It's because it's like, if they're like giving you all the medicine and you're doing all this stuff, but you don't feel good, and they can you show it, they're like, it's not working.
Yeah.
And you figure something else out, right? So yeah.
So you finish your round of chemotherapy. You beat it.
Yeah.
15 years coming up soon. Huge accomplishment. Huge milestone. Where did the cooking come in? Where did the love for food come in?
Day one, like going back, who am I in food? And that has to do with my family.
Okay.
So family, food is actually the glue to my family. If I think about every single happiest memory I've ever had to do with food and had to do with family or people around me. So I grew up with all my aunts, my uncles, and everybody in my family cooked. So there was a rule: lunch, dinner, everybody knows you have to be home. So we always ate together growing up. Doesn't matter what you're doing, lunch is there, and we all help. So I grew up having this very, very amazing food culture of, because we also had so many people, it's never one dish, right? So there's always a couple dishes and stuff. And doesn't mean that it's expensive and elaborate, but it might be just a plate of stir-fried gailan. There might be a steamed fish. There might be 2 chicken thighs that are cut up into pieces so everybody can share. But I grew up with that sort of environment, and everybody cooked too. And I really got into cooking, I think because my dad, so my parents came over because of a restaurant sponsored them. So that's how they immigrated over. And then my dad, when he was growing up, he decided to open up a Chinese restaurant, like a takeout spot. So I grew up around sweet and sour chicken, egg rolls, spring rolls. The good stuff.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Was that place in Mississauga?
It was in Mississauga. Yeah.
I'm from Mississauga. I was wondering, where?
Oh, it was near Arendelle Park.
Okay, that area. Okay, yeah.
That area, there's a little plaza where I haven't been there in so long.
Yeah.
But there's a Rose Bakery or something. I can't remember what the Applewood.
Okay, yeah.
The plaza right there.
Okay, nice, yeah.
Yeah, so I spent a lot of my weekends there. But anyways, at that time, my family loved watching cooking shows. My dad would watch Food Network. My grandfather and my aunt would watch the Asian cooking channels. And I remember my dad really loved Iron Chef. And we're talking about the old school.
The old school,
the Ken Kenichis. And he's like, I like cuisine. And he eats the onion. And that's the jam, right? But he wanted to watch it, but he couldn't because he worked at the spot, at the restaurant. So they came out on Fridays. Friday nights is when it came out. It came out 2 episodes. It was 9 to 10 and 10 to 11. So my dad was like, can you record it for me? And then I'll come home and I'll watch it. The thing is, at that time, it was VHS. So when you record things, there's nothing, you can't watch anything else.
Yeah, you have to watch it.
So I spent a lot of my Friday nights watching Iron Chef. And then I would rewatch it with my dad. So that was a big part of cooking. And eventually just cooked because I needed help family, right? Whether it was my grandmother helping her cut ginger to make lunch, taking her out for grocery shopping, learned a lot about grocery shopping from my grandparents, making dumplings together, hot pot barbecues, get together. So we have a big family, right? So going out to a restaurant to eat was out of the question. That's
just too expensive for that many people, yeah.
So it's we always go buy things and we'll come home and we'll cook instead. So that's sort of where the food came. And then in high school, I took a home ec class, and then this teacher at the time, and Chef Nixon, Pat Nixon. Still friends. We still chat now and then.
That's cool.
Yeah, we still chat. It was amazing. We had this cooking competition, and then he gave me the chance to compete in it, and then so I did, and I won regionals and then provincials, and then
Very cool.
I got to compete for a chance to compete for Canada. And I like placed like third or something like that. I was bummed because I'm competitive, right?
Yeah.
Super competitive. Like, the hell's happening? How dare I lose? So I remember it. And then when I graduated, like I said, I didn't know what I wanted to do when I graduated high school. So I decided to do business. I did business because, like, I don't know what I want to do. I know I want to go to university. I also know that someday I want to own my own something. I don't know what it is. I didn't know anything of what I wanted to do. But I was like, if I get a business degree, I set myself for at least anything has to do with business.
Yeah.
So I can move it that way. So I took business, but like I did culinary school. After my second year, I missed cooking a lot because in high school I cooked for competitions. Like,
Yeah.
after school I would be practicing in the kitchen and all these things. So then, because I lost, I remember that they had a post-secondary one, so they had a college one. So when the first day of culinary school, I went in. I went to go find the guy the chef who takes care of everything. His name's Chef Philippe. Still chat with him as well. And I go to him, and he's like this French chef. He's like this super French chef, and I'm like, hey chef, my name's Wallace. I'm this young buck, and I'm like, I know there's like skills Ontario for college. I want to do it. And then he's like, hold on. Who are you? What? And then I'm like, I did it in high school. I lost in the finals. I want to do it again. I know I can do it. He's like, we'll see. And then, because he didn't know anything, we got a nice relationship over the years at school. Ended up doing it. Won regionals, won provincials, went straight back to Canadians, and I lost by 0.5 a point.
Oh.
And the reason why I lost, and it's funny because now I'm on the judging panel for that committee. So now I
Okay.
judge these competitions.
Comes full circle.
Full circle. The guys the chefs would be like, you lost because you were so clean that there was a part when there was a little piece of meat on your apron, and because you're so clean, imagine like a whole pure white wall or like a fresh pair of kicks, and there's like a little skid mark.
Yeah.
It's emphasized, and then that was the dock mark. And
Wow.
so that's sort of that's how I got into
At
food.
least you know it had nothing to do with your cooking.
Yeah, well, exactly. And then when I finished school, during my last year of university and college, I really wanted to get into cooking because of obviously competition and all that kind of thing. So I started looking at like places that really inspired me, and I looked at like the top restaurants in the world. And I found two that I really loved, which was Noma. At the time, they were the best restaurant in the world. And then Alinea, which was number 7 in the world. But they were one of the top leading ones in like things like molecular gastronomy and like, making edible balloons and all these different kind of cool things.
Right.
I ended up applying for both of them for a stage. So a stage in the culinary world is an unpaid internship. Like I said, only the culinary world has unpaid internship where you work 18, 16 hours a day. You pay for everything yourself, and then
they give it a different title.
And then you get to come here, and then you just get to come back and say, I worked at this place.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, a lot of chefs still do it, and we all still do it too. But I did these stages, and I was like, I loved it, right? But I did those during my reading weeks and my summer breaks for university and college. So I really didn't have any. Going back to, I take a lot of things on, and like if there's an opportunity, I'll go. So when I graduated, I got the opportunity to open up Momofuku, as I mentioned, and all my other friends went to go do culinary stuff, and then I ended up just cooking. I ended up cooking, and at that time, we were technically at the peak or at the top of my culinary career. What I mean by that is, I've worked at some of the best restaurants in the world. I'm the young buck. I'm working at this new restaurant that opened up by this famous chef. We're number 1 in Toronto. We're number 2 in Canada. I'm working with Michelin star chefs. I'm there. Like, there's nothing else. And I realized that, damn, there's a lot of stuff that I have to keep on working, like the usual, like the hierarchies and things. I've seen the best of the best in the world, and we still joke about the same kind of things in our days, such as, we'll laugh at like, oh, look at the 2 gentlemen at the bar right now, having a nice sandwich, a glass of wine or 2, and it's a Thursday afternoon at 3 p.m.
What is that like?
Like, what is that like?
Yeah.
Like, right?
Yeah.
And then people be like, oh, it must be nice. Or like, when we're talking about going on vacations, and then people are like, where are you going? And like, or like Thanksgiving, where are you going? And they're like, oh, are you gonna go see family? No, I haven't seen them in years. Like, we just don't talk, Or like, I'm just gonna go on a weekend cottage by myself and just get away and don't think of anything. And like for me, that was like, that's not healthy.
No.
That's not healthy. And that's when I decided to leave. And I want like.
How hard was that decision? Like like everything in your life up to that point, you reach the pinnacle, as you said, and then you walk away from it.
It was not hard when you start counting down the days of your next day off.
Fair. Okay.
So like, we were cooking the best that we can ever cook. The thing that I also thought was that everybody around me is just as hungry. Or that's the difference between, I guess, being great and being the best. So when I was in Noma, Renee told me this story where he told everybody, and he goes, chefs, if there's a study that said if a monkey or a chimpanzee was 2% smarter in IQ, they'd be replacing your job. So he's like, the difference between being good and great is literally that 2%. So that's why it's the difference between being the best in the world to being the 100th best. It's literally that much. Go back to sort of my culinary competition. I lost by 0.5. Like, so
just a little bit.
Everything's a game of interest.
Yeah, everybody's so invested in doing the best. And I was like, everybody's there 100% physically. Everybody's there 100% mentally. I wasn't there mentally, right? I still did my job without a doubt, but it takes a toll. And it went back to, I'm like, is this really what I want to do for the rest of my life? And I was like, I don't think so, because there's so much more I want to do. So it was really easy to sort of leave. And it was nice because, like, I didn't leave. Our team was so small. So I didn't leave and be like, here's 2 weeks, peace, like, catch you later. I was like, hey, I'll leave whenever we train the next guy. We're all good. I ended up staying for like a couple more months, and then we're gone. But since then, I've learned over the last 10 years or so is to figure out what I want to do. I say I kind of tasted a lot over the years. I still want to do something with food. I didn't know what I wanted to do about it, but so I tried. So I did private catering. I've did cooking classes. I've did consulting. I've did a little bit of product development. I've helped open a golf club. I've tried meal prepping for the fitness industry. All these things, and eventually I've taken a lot of things that I loved about each thing and sort of put them together and sort of now brought into what Six Pack Chef is, which is like
tell
what
me
people
about that.
Yeah, Six Pack Chef is what people see today. It's actually the branded version of me.
Okay.
So going back to where Six Pack Chef came from, is that when I was cooking and when I was competing in bodybuilding, so the whole Six Pack part of it is I actually compete for Canada as a national level bodybuilder. I haven't competed in a couple
Very
years,
nice.
but I competed for Canada. So during that time when I was competing and cooking at Momofuku, I'd fitness friends, I'd be like, hey, it's the flexing chef, right? Or it's the muscle chef. And then I had the chef guys would be like, oh, it's the fit chef. It's it's the exercise chef. I'm a business and marketing major and branding major. That's not going to fly, right?
It just doesn't ring well.
No.
Yeah.
So then I was like, okay, what's something that people will understand that's like, it has to do with food, it has to do with fitness. And then it sort of tells about me. Six pack, you understand that it could be about your 6-pack of your abs, right? Or it could be a 6-pack of beer, 6-pack of donuts, 6-pack of cookies. And I was like, okay, that's how it came to be. And when I say it's the branded version of me, it's going back to, I don't want to separate my business with my life. I think a big part of why I'm able to do the things that I do currently is because everything's tied to what I would do in my life. So going back to it, Six Pack Chef, there's 3 pillars. Eat good, look good, live great. Eat good is all things food and drink and beverage and hospitality. Look good is all things health and fitness. And then live great is all things lifestyle, motivation, entrepreneurship. And the balance of all 3 and these pillars are what make up me. And then Six Pack Chef is just the branded version of that. So that's why I can do a podcast like this, because this can talk about, we can talk about our fitness side of it if we wanted to, right? We can also talk about food if we wanted to, but we can also talk about the whole sort of lifestyle part of it. But each of those things are still me. And I think it makes it easier to just wake up and want to do something. You know, when you wake up and you're just going to kind of a job and it's not what you love or has nothing to do with you, but it pays the bills, you're like, right?
Yeah.
But if you wake up and you're like, I'm just doing life. I'm just doing life. So yeah.
Wow. That's you could see the light bulb as he was telling through the story of how you got to the brand. That's awesome.
It's interesting because it's not something that came just yesterday.
Yeah.
unfortunately,
And that's, sorry, not to cut you off. That's the thing that a lot of people don't get, is that they'll see the numbers, they'll see the following, they'll see the engagement, they'll see all that and go, wow, it's as if, but the amount of time, effort, the hustle, the days where you didn't feel like creating, the days where you just had a mental block, the days where you created content and it flops the next day, all of that exists.
yes.
And it's been existing for some time before you got to where you are.
Well, it's the funny thing, if we get into, now we'll get into the little content creation stuff, is I was never good on socials because I wasn't allowed to go play video games. I never had a console in my life. Like I never had a console, like I didn't play video games. Because I came from, I call it the machine. I was supposed to be a doctor, lawyer, I was supposed to be that guy.
Yep.
So I never did any of those things. And then when Instagram came on, when YouTube and all those things, I wasn't part of it, right? I kind of missed it. I didn't have my first phone until like, I can't remember, like university or end of high school. And like I remember I had like 500 megabytes or something like that. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Back
nothing.
when that was the deal.
Yeah. So like, I didn't even have anything to go on socials because I didn't have the data to, or anything.
And text messages were like, you only get 25 a month.
Yeah, exactly.
Call me after 6.
Yeah,
for sure.
Like
weekends, call me all you want.
Yeah.
Right?
Weekends free. Yeah.
So, I never got on those trains, and then when I eventually got onto Instagram, I wouldn't know about anything about what. I just like, oh, okay. So my friend, one of my best friends, is like, hey, like I'm on this thing called Instagram, and I was like, oh, what is it? It's like, you just follow some pages that you like, and then you can post things. I had no clue what I was doing there, so I was just playing around. And obviously, with like platforms, algorithms, you mess up the first. They figure out what you want to do in the first like couple of weeks, and then your account is in that category.
Yeah.
So obviously, as it grew, I haven't grown in a while. It's like in 2017 or something like that. My gram was like maybe for like 5,000, something like that, and I was trying to grow stuff because I was like trying to do business and like starting to post things and like into fitness and all that. But I kept on going. And kind of growing it, and it didn't really grow much. And then TikTok came around, and I was I followed Gary Vee. He was one of the first guys that I was kind of listened to one of his videos that caught my attention, because he said something that I usually say to myself or I say to other people. I'm like, oh, this guy's saying what I'm saying. And then, but anyways, I heard him talk about TikTok, and he's like, it's this thing. If you guys, if you've missed on Instagram, if you missed on YouTube,
this is your next chance.
This is your chance. Give it or take it, right?
Yeah.
Going back to the YOLO, might as well. What do I lose? So I'm like, I missed Instagram, I missed YouTube. I'm not gonna miss this one. If it fails, at least I don't regret. That's a hard word. Like, regret is like a super powerful word. So then I remember I was like, okay, I'll download TikTok. I'll do my first thing. My video, I believe, was like October 28th. October 28th, 2019 was when I posted it. I got on TikTok. I was like, okay, what the hell do I do? Right? At that time, I knew that I already did Fridge Wars. I mean, no, not Fridge Wars. I already did Chopped. I was on TV. I knew I already filmed Top Chef. So I was like, okay, in this platform, it's new. Nobody knows me. Blank slate. Blank slate. Let's figure this out. All right. The handle, it's the same thing as my Instagram. So W26Chef. How do I tell people that I cook, that I'm into fitness, and like I'm like, this sort of lifestyle. It's like fun, entrepreneurship, blah, blah, blah. So I searched up like cooking videos and knife skills and all this. And I saw this one dude. He's not a professional chef or anything. So he's just cutting a cucumber to a beet. Now he's cutting it to the beet, and it's like, cool. I'm like, I can do that better. I was like, cool, I can do that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna try to do the same thing, because like obviously I was learning the app, and the app's like you take a song that someone does and you just do something the same thing, or try to copy it or duet it, whatever. So I go onto TikTok, and I'm there, and I see this guy. I'm like, okay, this shows that I can cut. How do they know that I'm fit? Like I'm into fitness. Light bulb. I'll take off my shirt. My name says Six Pack Chef. Let's
People
just
got to see the six pack.
Let's just
that's all I'm thinking about the whole time. Anyways, I'm like, when are you taking your shirt off?
So it's like, let's just do this. So that's the second thing, and the third thing was like, how do I show that I'm not like a super serious chef or anything like that, and I want this to be like a fun platform, and like even just more of myself, of who I am as a person. So then I kind of just gave it my flair of things of like not looking at it while I'm cutting, while cutting it to the beat, kind of sticking my tongue out, kind of like MJ kind of. I realized I did this. I didn't know I did this until I started doing a lot of these videos and I watched it myself. When it gets to like things that are kind of like at the moment kind of pressure things, I end up like sticking my tongue out. But I'm a big basketball fan too, so like I
you saw it.
I
So
saw
like,
it.
just picked it up, just picked the same
I
thing.
guess, but it was just thing. So like, I posted that video at nighttime. I remember I told my brother, I posted it at about like 8 o'clock. I remember I told my brother, hey, I'm gonna do this thing called TikTok. And then he's younger than me. He's like, what the hell are you doing? Like, are you 12? Like, are you gonna dance and everything? I'm like, hey, I'm just gonna post it and whatever, right? I remember I posted at 8. It's like 500 likes or something in like the first hour. I'm like, oh my God, this is amazing. This is killer.
Very first video.
Yeah, well, because like on
Nice.
Instagram, I would get like 50 likes, 35. So I was
it's
like,
a struggle
it
out
was-
there
I was
on
like-
IG.
I was like loving it. I wake up to like 1.2,
Jeez.
like a million views on that thing.
Wow.
And then it kept going that day. So like that video ended up going to like 11.2 mil or 12 mil.
Mhm.
And then I was like, what the hell? I was like, wow, this became a thing. And then obviously, it's funny, I had to talk with someone about this earlier, where I was like, that first video that you do, if it pops, or any video that pops, or any piece of content or a podcast that pops, you're like, I need to replicate
Yeah,
this.
keep doing it.
Yep.
So I was like, oh, okay, fine. I'll cut with my shirt off again. It's like, and then I'll cut with my shirt off and I have to do some sort of trick thing again. So I did a bunch of those kind of videos and they all started popping. It was cool because I just kept on going with it. And I got to like about like 600K in followers, and then it was like amazing, right? I was like amazing. But it got to a point where this was during 2020, so beginning of COVID. I also had a 3-year plan when I was in 2017 to turn Six Pack Chef into a thing. So like 2020 was that year, was the year 3 of my 3-year plan of being self-employed by myself.
Mhm.
Like it was no matter what was gonna happen, whether I had an income or not, I was gonna work for myself and be self-employed. So COVID helped make that happen, and so I was there, but no brands wanted to be on TikTok at that time.
No.
People
Yeah.
they were like, "What the hell is TikTok? What are you doing?"
Mhm.
And also they didn't know how to incorporate into my brand as a guy who's like cutting kind of shirtless or like cutting things. Like, what are you gonna do? Cut this cup? Like, you get what I mean? Like, you're gonna-
They didn't see the vision.
no, right? So it was hard, and I get it. So then I'm like, I'm a chef at the end of the day. I do love, because like people will be like, do you cook? Are you even a chef? Like, because obviously nobody knows me there.
Yeah.
So I'd have
Plus
to,
people
like-
are just mean on TikTok.
We'll getting back to sort of like that mental health thing later, but it's like, so like I had to teach people who I am.
Yeah.
Like I had to show people, hey, I was on Top Chef, I was on these shows, and eventually people are like, hey, can you cook something? Like, do you cook? So then I ended up starting doing recipes, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna start doing recipes because I need to make money. Need to make money. B, it's better for our branding, so that brands can figure out how to work with me.
Yep.
And I did that, and unfortunately, what's nice about it, fortunately, was I was able to do a different niche or different things. The other side of it, though, was people that were on my page weren't accustomed to recipes from me.
They just wanted you to cut
They
shit.
just wanted me to cut
That's it. I
stuff,
don't
right?
care. Take
Right,
your shirt-
right.
Take your shirt off and cut. Nothing else.
Yeah,
I don't
you got
wanna
like
talk, I don't wanna nothing. Yeah.
exactly. So they're like, why are you making recipes? And you try to please everybody. We
Yeah.
kind of talked about this earlier. Like, you kind of try to want to please everybody, all these kind of things. But going back to that before the recipes, was you mentioned about where I'm getting this whole story is about building and like people see the things coming from. So during 2020, from March to July, I had that streak where I posted 15 pieces of content a day by myself.
15 a day.
15
Wow.
across TikTok.
Could get
That's
the numbers.
insane.
TikTok.
We gotta get those
Facebook.
numbers up,
Get
buddy.
the numbers up. We're doing like 2, 3.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I did on Instagram. I would do every day a cooking live. Like I would just cook live and like record it and stuff. TikTok, I would make cutting videos, and then I would repost this to YouTube and Facebook, and then to like different like food forums and all that kind of stuff. I got burnt out.
Oh yeah.
It was
You have to. There's no
burnout.
way you could have
It
sustained
was
that.
so burnout, and I never had that before. I've never had creator burnout, right? But I was so addicted, and in a good way of like, I'm finally seeing progress. I'm finally seeing the like sort of the fruit of my looms coming out. Like all the seeds that I've been planting, it's working. But after the recipes, I didn't grow anymore. Which kind of sucked because obviously changed. So I had to change things around and kind of play around with things. And then I was like, I wanted to teach people still more things. And always I use food to communicate with people. That's what I sort of use with food. And I ended up started cutting stuff again, but no shirtless off. I kept my shirt on. I transitioned my content from it started like shirtless to putting just an apron on, and then slowly I put a shirt on, and then now I only put on a shirt on. You know what I mean? But I ended up started cutting again, cutting different things, but the more style that people see me now, and I use that to educate people in sometimes the comments or things about what is this ingredient then cutting, or some fun facts about the stuff. But I posted this one video. It's a cucumber video. It's the most viewed video on my page, and it's kind of crazy. But it's like I cut a cucumber. That cucumber video currently on TikTok has 142 million views.
Jesus, I can't even process that number.
Yeah, it was insane, right? But people see that. In order for me to get that cucumber video, though, I had to cut 14 cutting videos first.
Yeah.
And before those 14 cutting videos, I had to make those 50, 60 recipe videos. And before that, I had to make all these other things. So going to what you asked about, like, people see what you see now, a lot of people don't see the amount of work that you needed to put in
to get to that one video.
How many cucumbers you have to waste?
Right? Agreed. You know how much salads I've been eating? Yeah.
No,
so,
that's awesome.
That's it. Yeah.
So okay, so you're on TikTok, you're seeing the results, you're seeing people resonate with you. We talked about how people are pretty freaking mean.
Yes, for sure.
As a creator who has a big enough audience, how are you dealing with the negativity? Because no matter how good your content is, no matter how wholesome your content may be,
thank you,
people are still negative.
Try to do that with your shirt off, and
There you
people
go.
don't think you cook.
Yeah.
But
Like, how are you specifically responding to these things
I think
internally? Because you don't have to always respond to them in the comments.
I think that's the funny thing. I actually respond to all my comments, even now.
Okay.
Even now,
Negative
to
ones too?
all of them.
Interesting.
All of them. I spend at least a good 3 to 4 hours a day just responding to comments and DMs. Like that, I do it because I know how it feels like to message somebody that maybe you want to chat or get to know or learn something or ask a question,
And they don't
just
respond.
get left on red.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I've been on that side. I hate it. So for me, it's something that sometimes other creators, they're like, oh, it's such a waste of time, or it's not scalable. But I try to do the best that I can to reply to somebody. And even it's the most smallest things. Like, so I have no problem when someone be like, hey, what knife do you use? Or like, I have other friends or people that would be like, I'm at the grocery store. Do you know how to cook this? Like, if I have the time and I can do it, I definitely will. But replying to the comments and stuff, I think if it wasn't for cancer, I would probably treat a lot of these things differently. But because of my viewpoint on cancer, I've learned that life is too short to worry about the things. It's easier said than done.
Yes.
It's obviously easier said than done. But for me to deal with it, it's very simple. Where like I'll see it and I'm like, oh man, really? And then I use it as an opportunity to kind of chat with the person. What I mean by this is I kind of, I won't say like I'll troll them back or anything like that, right? Or someone would be like, what's a good example? Oh, here's a great example. On Top Chef, when they put my intro video out of who I am in introduction, it's the videos like, hey, I'm Wallace, I'm the six-pack chef, and like there's like photos and videos of me like working out in the gym and my competition photos. I remember somebody in the comments of the Facebook thing was like, what's this guy gonna do? Cook chicken breast and broccoli? Like he's gone in episode 2.
That's
So I remember I screenshot it.
yeah.
I screenshot, I didn't reply anything. And then I knew I already passed episode 2 because I knew I went to the finals. So then I waited for episode 2. I came back and I replied to him like, hey, I guess it's better than chicken and broccoli, right? And then he's like, hey man, I'm so sorry, da 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 da. And he's like, I'm a big fan now. Like, wow, you like blew me with like, you blew me away with the kanji thing. It's like, good luck. And so that's like for me, I find it as an opportunity to
Educate almost.
educate, and instead of trying to make an enemy, make a friend.
100%.
Yeah.
Like people will go and ask me, they'll say like, I'll always try to find some way to maybe spin a negative comment into a positive one.
Right.
and that way that, because I also don't like, I as social media and content creation is my job. Imagine going to your job every day and seeing negative comments. So
It's hard.
it's hard.
And that's the, not to cut you off,
yeah.
that's the one thing that I think people misunderstand about athletes that I was talking about when we interviewed Jonathan Osorio. He talked about how no matter what he did, no matter how well he performed, no matter how many goals he scored, there were always negative comments, and that's all he saw all the time.
Well, it's like Tom Holland, Spider-Man.
Yep.
He canceled his social media. He's like, doesn't matter. Like, even he has like, whatever millions of followers. If there's like 75K people on a regular basis across places telling you suck, that will get to you no matter what, right?
Because it's you hold on to the negative. It's just like in restaurants. It's like you have a good time, you might tell 3 people. You have a bad time, you're gonna tell 10 people, right?
Yeah.
And it's because people like to live. I'm just
They
surprised
feed
that
off of it.
talk to a few people. A lot of people, we talked like Nima, and a lot of people, they just ignore the negativity. I like you, and I like the spin you have. Is like you take it and you try to spin it to get them to not hate as much, right? Which I like that.
Yeah, I think I always look at it, it's like,
What if it's like something just as blatant? You could tell this person just wants to get a rise out of you.
yeah, I have no problem. I'd be like, hey, you okay?
Yeah.
Like, it's like, oh, like, it's like, hey.
So
like,
simple, but effective.
or I'll use like food stuff. I'll be like, hey, you must be hangry. Have a Snickers.
Yeah.
Right? Like, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And like, if they reply back, I mean, I get flack from like friends and family. I'm like, yo, let them be. Like, don't waste your time. But I would be like, this is a great opportunity to educate somebody on something, or like to change their time. I go back to the whole cancer thing. Something that I told myself was that I think as human beings, we have the responsibility, if we're alive, that every day you should positively impact somebody. It doesn't have to be massively big. It can be a simple thing of, oh, your shirt looks great today, or your hair is incredible today, or opening a door, right? The day that you don't positively influence someone in any way, that's the day that you technically, it's like your time's up, right? You wasted, like that's it. So for me, sometimes people who reply to these things, they also don't expect you to reply back.
Most
That's why
of them
they
don't.
can. That's
Most
why.
of them don't.
Well,
That's fine.
That's why when I reply to comments, I'll get both sides. I'll get the sides of like, oh my God, you replied. Hi, you're amazing. I love your stuff. And I'll get the only comments like, oh my God, you replied. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to write this. Like, I'm like, but because it's on social media, everybody has an invisible guard.
Yeah, you're brave because you're
Keyboard warriors.
you don't person doesn't exist in real life to you.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? It's like, I can say whatever I want. Like I'll tell Mike Tyson I'll beat him up. Like like, people say, like people like, let's have a strong punch, but like in person you're not actually gonna say that.
You're not saying that to Mike.
No, for sure. Yeah. So I take it. I respond to them. I obviously sometimes they're not always the best. Meaning like sometimes some people don't care. I'm just like, hey, I hope you have a great day, dude. And like that's it. Like if you say something, you're like, hope you have a great day. What are they gonna say back?
What could they possibly say back?
So I treat it that way, and it's really nice because I think I get comments sometimes on my socials that it keeps me motivated to keep going and go through. Is like sometimes people won't even doesn't even have to be a comment about the content I put out, but someone would be like, I love that you still reply to every single person here, or like they notice it. And I'm like, oh hey, thanks for noticing.
Yeah.
Right. I don't expect you to notice. I'm not doing it for you to notice. I just do it because I go back to feeling behind or anything like that. I don't feel that I am anyone special. So I feel very blessed that I have someone taking their time to watch my stuff, to send a reply, to say, hey, your stuff is great or anything like that. And I think for me, it's like, it's just who I am as a person. Whereas like, you gave me the time of day and you gave me respectfully and it was amazing. I want to do the same thing. Yeah, it's just that.
Yeah, no, I like that.
So, what are you up to these days?
Oh man,
You were telling me about some companies,
Yeah.
some babies.
yeah. I have.
To be clear, we're talking about projects here, not
Yeah. So going to like the point of my career, I'm very blessed to be able to start having a lot of really cool opportunities. And 2 babies that I'm currently having is 2 new projects that just kind of started this year. And they just so coincidentally happened to start at around the same time. Blessing and not a blessing. Because they're both full-time things as a founder and partner that require your full-time
attention.
attention.
Yeah.
on top of being a full-time content creator.
Yep.
So I essentially have 3 full-time jobs as the main person, like one of the main person.
Mm-hmm.
So, and a full-time 8-hour gig is a full-time for a regular person, but a full-time for a partner, a CEO, and that's a 24/7. CEO is chief everything officer.
Yep.
Right. And so I have these 2 projects going on. So the first one is I launched a frozen food company called Spatula Foods. That launched in March, and we are, we are province wide. We're province wide, and we're frozen food gourmet meals ready in under 10 minutes. That's our promise. Like from frozen to your plate in 10 minutes. You don't need another cutting board. You don't need any ingredients. We set it all for you,
Mm-hmm.
and you just have it in your freezer. It's whenever you're convenient, you want to make a meal, you're set to go. So we got Spatula. That was something that started over COVID with my partners, Ian and Sheila. They were overseas. I was here. We decided to create this company, start it. And our company now is, I believe, 15 people. We just
Wow.
moved into our new location 2 days ago.
Very cool.
Um,
Congratulations
Yeah,
on
like
that.
8,000 square
That's
feet.
huge.
It's insane to grow that, right?
Yeah.
That's one project. In parallel, I have the blessing to be able to, going back to that. Remember, I said I had that 3-year goal of
Mhm.
six-pack chef. I also had a 3 to 5-year goal, which was to keep growing the brand and then hopefully in 5 years go international. Now, this project that I have here has nothing to do with Spatula, but it's a six-pack chef project. I'm opening up a food spot in New York City.
Nice.
So
Very cool.
I always say this thing and like I'm opening this spot and I'm not in New York City. So a lot of these meetings have to be taken here, but I've got a company that's full time. And then I still got social media to take care of full time. So I have to find these slots. And it's like a big, very juggle and balance of trying to move things around. Because especially if I need to move one thing, the implications change for everybody else. And I got to
Yep.
change everything else. So I'm growing that. And like I'm going to New York every month to be able to go with the construction, see suppliers, hiring, all these things. And so I'm building 2 companies at the same time. It's extremely amazing, but it's also extremely stressful. Like we see the great, but we never talk about the bad. Like especially
And
on social.
what is the bad here?
What I mean by on the bad is mental health is a big one. It's not easy to do it. It looks all glam and it's all fun and it's like everybody thinks I'm grabbing a bag and life is great flying to New York, or like you've just got this new place that you're having, you're all these in grocery stores and stuff. But the amount of meetings to like figure out this is blue better than this green is 12 font better or 8 font. What happens if we don't sell this much this month? What happens if if the contractor changes plans? What's the implications of that? And I think more and more, I think for me as a content creator, I was great. Like COVID, six-pack chef, just making content full time. Life was groovy. It was amazing. I can't say no to opportunities that I think I can handle, or that I'm like, I don't want to miss this opportunity. Spatula came up, grabbed it. This new food project I'm on, I grabbed it. I now have to find it in my day. There's only
The
24
time,
hours in
yeah.
a day,
Yeah.
right? And so if 8 hours, let's just use that as an example. I don't have time for family, friends, significant other, myself. Like finding time to go to the gym is hard, right? So now I've got to be smarter in my diet. I got to be smarter in my workouts. I can't la-di-da. I can't sometimes enjoy it. Like the gym is my release time, right? Family. It's very hard to be able to spend time with family.
Not making lunch
others,
anymore, eh?
right? Pardon?
Not making lunch anymore, eh?
No, no. It sucks, right? And
So how are you balancing all of this?
I go as the flow.
Okay.
I don't have the answer
You're
for
kind
it.
of learning.
I
right
don't have
now
the
as you
answer,
go. Yeah.
and I think it's just like with relationships, communication.
Mm.
I talked to some content creators who are like, I'm trying to cook. I'm doing a cookbook. I'm opening up my studio. This brand needs me for this, and this thing needs me for that. I need to try to do all these things, and I'm not. I can't, can't do it because this waits for this, and this has to do that. And I tell them, and we talk about it, is like, we need to. I always be like, I believe in people. I believe in people as much as many people think like people are evil and like there's bad people in the world, etc. I like if you just communicate and tell them everything, Like, like it's like, hey, I'm super slammed here. This is the problem. This is what I have. This is the implications. Majority of the time, somebody will be like, oh, I didn't know this was all you're doing. Let me see what we can do. So with me and my partners and the businesses and family and stuff, I just communicate. I communicate and I'm like, hey, this is what's happening here. I have this day. I have this day. Can we make something happen here? Can we not? And yeah, that's a big one. That's the big one. It's just learning to communicate. That's how I'm dealing with it. And also making sure that I try to still have fun with it. And luckily, it's the fact that these things are still all about six-pack, food, health and fitness, and lifestyle. So that I still do this on a regular basis. It's still my life. It would have been very different if Spatula was a carpentry company.
Right.
Mhm.
Something
I would be like,
completely
well,
different.
It's completely different.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be able to balance that because I'd be like, that's just not it. So yeah. So that's sort of where I'm at right now in my life. I'm at a very, very happy place and grateful of social media and content being good. Growing, getting a lot of nice opportunities and meeting amazing people. Spatula being able to help other people have an income to feed their families. It's a big responsibility. That's another stress point about that. But same thing on the side of the project in New York is being able to expand my reach. And all three things go back is, I think the thing that I love about it is it lets me reach and communicate with people. I wouldn't be on this podcast with you guys if it wasn't for content creation and cooking and all that kind of stuff. I wouldn't be able to chat right now, right? It's very meta, where it's like it all comes back to something really small, but that's the truth. And I think that's what I love about sort of where I'm at now is being able to connect with people and being able to use my life and food as the medium to be able to do it. Yeah.
Amazing.
I noticed you mentioned quite a few times about your 3-year plan, 5-year plan. When did you start making plans? Like, when did you start to say, okay, no, I need a plan to get this going?
I got you. Cooking, and when I was cooking and I left, I remember I said, I was like, I tasted. I did a lot of tasting and did a lot of things. Didn't know what I was doing. Not making money. I needed to figure things out. I'm like, okay, I need to get things going because I kept on comparing myself to my friends, the people around. So then it was 2017 was the first year I was like, I really want to get Six Pack Chef going. I really want to get this thing. I want to do my own thing. I didn't know. I always tell people, plan for the long term, not the short term. So if people ask me, like, how did you do all these things? I don't even know. I really didn't know how I was going to get here. All I know is that I was like, okay, if I break things down into compartments, it's easier to achieve, right? It's like when you go work out. If you, instead of thinking about doing 20 reps, if I tell you, hey, can you do 3 reps? You're like, oh, 3 reps easier. And then from 3, and you build and you build and you go, right? So I was like, okay, 1 to 3, let's just go. I'm going to save some money, start a Six Pack Chef, work full-time myself. And I was like, okay, 3 to 5 years, what do I want to do? I want to build the company. I want to have a significant income with it. And then 5 to 10 years, what do I want to do? I want to be international. I want to be a brand that allows me to go around the world and travel and be able to chat with people. That was it. I don't know what was in.
Don't know how I'm going to get there, but that's where I'm going.
Well, I use this analogy. Exactly. I use this analogy as your goals should be the location in your GPS. Your life is a GPS. You put your goals as the destination, and you just press start, and you go. Any detour you want to take, any setback, any small thing you want to take a break or anything like that, the GPS will figure it out. As long as you know where you need to go at the end, you'll get there. It might take you a couple more years. It might take you a couple days. It might be a shortcut or a reroute. You just keep rerouting. But as long as you know where that end goal is, then that's fine. And I think that's, for me, is how I look at it, where it's like my end goal is what? I want to, like a big one is I want to take my family out on a vacation, like all of them, and not have to think about money. Like, I think that's a great goal for me.
Yeah.
It's like I want to be able to just bring everybody together because we're such a big family, so we never get to. And if we go on vacation, I don't even worry about money. And like my family's like, oh, but I got a job. Like, don't worry, I'll pay. Like, take care of it. We're all good. That's the big one, and that's the goal. And the other goal was just to be able to look back one day and just have an impact in life. Those are my goals. I don't know how I'm gonna get there, but sort of what I do now helps me go. And as long as I'm continuing going closer, or feel like I'm going closer towards that goal, then that's it. And I'll take any opportunities that as long as they relate to food, health and fitness, and life and stuff, and I'll take it.
Amazing.
Damn.
Well, listen, Wallace, I know it flies by, but
It's been a slice, man.
it's been,
Appreciate it.
yeah,
Dude.
this has been insightful, and appreciate you coming in and sharing.
What's the next 3 to 5 year goal? Because I think the last one you said was the international, so you hit that one, right?
No. Well, I'm just
Well,
starting
it's-
it.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
the,
okay,
so like
okay.
it's like
it's still working into
it's
it.
still literally just started that year. So like
Mhm.
this is 2003 was 3 2. Yeah, I'm in the end of that 3 to 5 year plan and the beginning of the 5 to 10 year plan.
Nice.
So it's just building more and more, and to get it to there, and that'd be amazing. So like New York's that like first step into it, and I think content creation was great because I can make content anywhere. I can,
Yeah.
so that's like the cool part about it, and yeah, so that's where we're at.
Well, we're definitely following along your journey,
Yeah.
man. We're
I
gonna
like it,
support
man.
you
I
every
like
which
it.
way we can, and
Appreciate
rooting
it.
for you from the side here, and stay in touch. Let us know what you're
Yeah,
up to,
yeah, I
because
mean-
you're doing some amazing stuff, and I think you have such a unique but such an inspiring story, man. I appreciate you
Thanks.
coming here and sharing that with us.
Anytime.
Thank you for making the
Anytime
time.
you guys want me
Very
to
much
come back,
appreciated, man.
I definitely will.
Oh, that's awesome.
This was a blast.
Thank you very much, everyone, for listening. Wallace Wong, the six-pack chef, with a shirt on.
Yep.
Best of luck in New York.
Thank you.
Keep up the great stuff, and you have a supporter here in Gents Post. We appreciate you, man.
Love it.
Thank
very
you.
Appreciate
much,
that.
man.
Poncho, appreciate you, sir.
Poncho's
Poncho.
the VIP.
Poncho is the man.
Goat.
Thanks, everyone. Take care.